Hello everybody, Tyrone the God 3 here. And yes, I've watched the Broly movie trailer, and I'm about to do what most YouTubers shouldn't do and have an opinion. So, the Broly movie trailer. It was a minute and some seconds long. I watched it, I looked over it, and honestly, the weird part is I've never felt such a mixed emotions of impressed and pure hatred at the exact same time. I was impressed and disappointed. And you're probably wondering, well, why were you impressed and disappointed at the exact same time, Tyrone? And the reason of such being is because I was impressed because of the way it looked. This trailer looks amazing. Visually, it's one of the most jaw-dropping trailers I've ever seen. Just visually, it looks really good. It's a good-looking Dragon Ball movie. Whoever they got to do the animations and the art style, it's really good. I can see that the characters have detail. They're not overly shiny or plastic-looking like in Dragon Ball Super, which I find is kind of ironic considering that Dragon Ball Super has the biggest problem, and this is the movie based off of the show. So, pretty funny. But at the same time, here's where it all draws down to. And I want to say it's Broly, but it's not really even the fact that it's Broly. Now, the thing is that when Broly's movie did come out, Broly and the Legendary Super Saiyan, it was a movie, it was their 8th movie, it was Dragon Ball's 8th movie, and it was, at the time, I went to go look at the movie over again, just, you know, to take some notes, and I noticed that the movie itself wasn't that bad. I mean, the premise behind it wasn't that bad, and I can see why Broly was widely accepted, not just because of the fact that he's a hulking Saiyan that can basically barrel through all of the Z-Warriors, because we've had plenty of Dragon Ball villains that have barreled through the Z-Warriors before. I think one of the reasons that Dragon Ball Z, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, was a movie that stood out a bit, because standalone it's a decent movie. One of the big things that it had going for it was the fact that Paragus overall had the plot, while Broly was just sort of the plot device. Paragus's plot was actually a plot that I found very enticing. It's the story of a Saiyan and his child who went through a very tragic line of events that led up to now. Broly was born with the obscene power level of 10,000. Now granted, I think they did this because around this time power levels had more or less died out, but they still needed to keep them relevant to the saga that they were focused on at the time, which they were dealing with Frieza and Frieza's soldiers and the Saiyans and everything like that. So power levels still had to be relevant. Unfortunately, 10,000 is basically stronger or near the strength that Vegeta was when he landed on planet Earth to fight off against Goku, and the infamous it's over 9,000 crush or whatever like that Vegeta does. In the manga it's over 8,000, so that's already like borderline so close to where Broly's newborn power is that makes it a bit obscene. It's like we've already established that Goku was born with a power level of 2. Now, not to talk too much about power levels, because power levels are kind of BS, and yes, Team 4 Star did that joke, but it's kind of true. The thing about it is, though, is that the idea was to bring a level of threat, to give us, the audience members, and the characters involved in the movie, a level of threat to be seen. And Paragus states that his son could be a very great asset to King Vegeta and Prince Vegeta. And King Vegeta basically kills him, stating that that's exactly what he's afraid of, and he puts them both off into the execution dump so that they can basically rot away and die. Now, the reason I like this premise, though, was the fact that it dabbled with the monarchy of the Saiyans, and it dealt with the fact that normally the Saiyans are always against a different race. They're usually up against the Canassans, the Tuffles, or something of that nature. And it was really interesting to see that the Saiyans had to deal with their own kind. It was a battle between royalty and hierarchy. King Vegeta is the king, and thus has priority over any major decisions that Paragus would make in that instance. So it dealt with those levels of monarchy between those two people, a lower class Saiyan versus the king, and how their actions cause the branching actions that are Paragus and Broly wanting to have revenge against Vegeta. Now, the problem that we run into, though, is that because that was such a central plot to Paragus, it makes him instantly a better villain than Broly can ever be, because he has an actual motive. Broly's motive was absurd. It was because Goku was crying next to him in the incubation chambers. Like, that's dumb. That's super dumb. And no matter how many ways you can splice it, it's just really dumb. It's so annoying to see that that's the trigger, because as a baby, you don't even know that Goku's name is Kakarot. Nobody even mentioned it. Nobody was even around Broly at the time for that to even be an issue. So I'm not sure why exactly they decided to have that be the trigger. Like, if anything, Vegeta should have been the cause for Broly to get upset, because King Vegeta tried to assassinate Broly. And yes, subconscious memories can be held within even as a baby, but it's very rare and traumatic. But that's one of the reasons why the Broly movie had so much interest, and the other reason was because there was more going on. It wasn't just Goku and Vegeta fight off against Broly, and then, oh, Frieza fight off against Broly too, why not? But, like, so much was happening. Goku and Chi-Chi were trying to get Gohan into a school, a prestigious school at that time. And then the rest of the Z Warriors, as well as the non-fighting warriors, were having a picnic. We're having a picnic around that time as well. It was just them celebrating themselves in the 10-day gap that Cell gave everybody, until the Cell games actually began. So it had a lot of premise behind it, and Goku ended up having to leave out in order to fulfill King Kai's goal of finding out who destroyed South Galaxy, while Vegeta was recruited thanks to Paragus in order to become king of a new planet Vegeta, and thus in turn all of our cast had a way in order to center the plot towards the planet Comet Komori, the planet that Comet Komori was going to crash into. There was a foreboding threat, which was Comet Komori, that was ready to kill all of the warriors that were on the planet, while in addition there's a legendary Super Saiyan with the capabilities to destroy an entire galaxy, which was shown off at the beginning of the movie. Multiple plot points and characters were utilized here. Trunks, Krillin, and Gohan were utilized to find out that the planet was a empty planet with no life on it whatsoever. Vegeta was searching for the legendary Super Saiyan along with Broly, which was ironic because Broly was the legendary Super Saiyan. So the Saiyan they were looking for was under their noses the whole time. Goku went to go search in his own way using instant transmission, and that ironically had him meet up with the others, and thus the plots all came together. It was a successful story that interwove each of these subplots into one giant plot, and that's the reason the movie works so well. Now, obviously, I haven't seen the Dragon Ball Super movie yet, so I don't know what's going to happen, but it's clear here that Goku and Vegeta are the main focus, with Frieza showing up as well. And at that point, the movie itself's existence is what bothers me, only because Broly's in the movie being presented as the unknown Saiyan, when in reality we all know who Broly is. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the reason I'm so upset with this premise is because literally Broly's only in this movie for his popularity alone. Whether you want to say that Toriyama makes him or Toei Animation makes him, no matter who is presenting this movie right now, it all boils down to one thing. Broly is popular and therefore needs to be in this movie. It's the whole reason the Resurrection F movie was made too, because Frieza, so much centered around Frieza. Frieza's destruction of planet Vegeta in the Broly movie was shown off in the Broly movie, so it all ties back to Frieza. Frieza is the shooting link between everything else that happens in the story. See, the reason that Cell wasn't as popular is because the Red Ribbon Army wasn't as centered of a focus around Goku's life. I mean, granted, it is the reason that they came back, but it wasn't a giant center. When Goku defeated Frieza in battle on planet Namek, that news spread across the entire galaxy, and thus it caused a lot of triggers. It caused people to talk. It caused people. Vegeta spread the word during the Garlic Jr. saga about it, and it was at this point it was rumored, and the rumors spread, and that's why it became such a big thing, because it was big news. And that in turn makes Frieza a very iconic villain, because he was also the villain to trigger Goku's first ever Super Saiyan transformation. And he was the first real threat our Z Warriors had to like actually face that started killing off a lot of people. So it's clear what Dragon Ball is doing. It clears that what they're doing is that they're pandering. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, this means Broly canon. And it's just like, canon or not, whatever you want to say, because Broly's movie actually fits into the regular canon just fine, or without any conflicts. It's just how you decide to take it. The fact of the matter, and what this all boils down to, is the fact, it goes far beyond Broly, ironically. It's just that no matter what character at that point makes it into the next movie, it's the fact that Dragon Ball is doing this habit where they take the best characters of all of the events and regurgitate them over and over and over and over and over until they can see exactly what fits, and that's what's bugging me. This problem goes far beyond Broly. I would have the exact same complaint if they brought Cooler back for a movie. I'd have the exact same complaint if they had brought Bardock back for a movie. The idea of Dragon Ball, or just any form of media, is to move forward. Just because something was popular or really well done back then doesn't mean it's going to work again. If you repeat a joke 1,000 times, everyone's not going to find it funny anymore. And this has been done 4 times. The joke has been told 4 times. It's not funny anymore. I don't want to see Broly anymore. I'm over Broly, whether he's canon, whether he's not canon, whether they make a manga series out of him, whether he's in Raging Blast 2, Raging Blast 1, whether he's able to turn Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4, Super Saiyan God. I don't care anymore. And that's what it all boils down to, is that I don't care anymore. And that doesn't even touch the surface of the problems I have with this movie in terms of fan pandering. Goku and Vegeta are the only ones that are relevant in this movie, and Frieza, because guess what? Frieza was brought back. The reason that Frieza worked so well was because Goku was able to successfully defeat a villain. And yeah, Trunks kills him, but Goku was able to defeat him after he already gave Frieza a chance to redeem himself. He tried this pattern with Piccolo and Vegeta, and they both decided to be redeemable. Frieza was not redeemable. Frieza killed too many people. Frieza did too many things that made him hated, and the idea is to hate Frieza. That was the main core of Frieza's character. He was supposed to be hated. Trying to get us to like him, trying to get him to team up with Goku is not going to work. All that's doing is making a villain who's kind of like, oh, I'm going to be here to help Goku fight the bigger threat so that I can try to destroy him later, only to know that I'm going to fail. Because Frieza's always going to fail. There's never going to be a point where he succeeds, because the story doesn't need him to succeed. In Resurrection F, you clearly see that he was meant to fail. The split-second Goku and Vegeta show up because they're already at Frieza's level when they show up. At no point do either of them have a giant disadvantage. At no point does Beerus say, screw it, let's leave Whis. It's clear they're about to die or something. Beerus and Whis being there already negates Frieza as a threat. Yeah, they don't want to get involved, but it doesn't change the fact that Beerus is clearly better than Frieza, and thus negates the threat altogether. Like, the fact is that when you have too many characters that are almost as strong as the villain themselves, so that you can make the villain somehow team up with the heroes later on, all you've done was just make a list of popular characters. It's no longer a story. It's no longer a drama anymore. It's just a bunch of characters that are going to be pit up against other characters. You've turned this into Death Battle. You've turned Dragon Ball into Death Battle, because that's all it's become now. At this point, I'm not surprised that at the end of the movie, Goku decides to let Broly go, so that Broly can one day fight alongside them. They already brought Broly into this with Kale, but I bet you conveniently, Kale's not going to be able to turn into that form anymore, or now she's had mastery over it, because we don't need 2 Brolys running around. And it's clear that Kale was already inspired by Broly, so there was no point to do the same formula twice. But with that being said, that's basically my main issues. And I know I'm hitting I'm kicking a dead horse at this point, but the reason that I'm so upset with this is because it's clear where Dragon Ball is going. It's clear what they're doing, and like I said, this goes far beyond Broly. I feel like Dragon Ball at this point is throwing whatever sticks, and if it's popular enough and it sells enough, that's what they're gonna go with. I think Beerus was like the last original idea that Toriyama had, and from this point on, it's just gonna be what was famous at the time. What was famous at the time? Oh, this was famous at the time. Let's bring this back. I mean, I even noticed it in Hatchak when they brought him back in Raging Blast 2, but I let that one slide because not a lot of people watched Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans in 1993 because it was exclusively for Japan and it was a video game / OVA type of situation. So there was no real way to get access to it. But this is just asinine pandering at its finest. And that's where I become the most disappointed. And I know I sound like I'm repeating myself in this rant, but on the upside, here's the thing. I have decided that based on this trailer alone, because I was impressed by the visuals of the trailer, I have decided to label this movie as what I like to call a Fast and Furious movie or a Transformers movie. You watch it once to watch the cool explosions, and after that, you don't reference it ever again. You don't try to dig into it. You don't try to have an analysis of it because this movie is not going to be able to hold that. I can talk to you about Battle of Gods for days and tell you why it's such a great movie and a masterpiece. I won't be able to do that with this because it's simple pandering. It's just whatever, it did whatever stuck. Then again, we don't know that. We need to actually watch the movie. Maybe, who knows, maybe they'll change my perspective. But so long as Broly's the focus, it's clear that this movie already is going backwards in terms of using what sticks. Because at this point, if they're able to change Broly up so much in this movie, that would make me mad too, because then it just raises the question, why not have just created another character? You could have easily made a new Saiyan, or for that matter, why make another Saiyan the villain? I'm getting really sick of them always going, oh, well, if it's not a super buff generic alien like Jiren, then we've got to make a Saiyan the highlight, because apparently no other aliens exist. No other race exists. We have to keep bringing the ones that are marketable because it's safe. But I've been ranting enough. Tell me what you guys thought about the trailer. Like I said, visually it's impressive. I like it. I think that a lot of other Dragon Ball movies in the future, if they do make them, should look like this. They definitely had their best animators on it, and I do like visually how it looks. And that's all I'm basically going to look at this movie for, is just, oh, look, it was very pretty. It's basically going to be like a pretty blonde. Yeah, you were pretty, but you don't know anything, so you were nice to look at. With that said, though, I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the God 3, out.